Hey there, entrepreneurs. My name is Sushant, and welcome to Trip Talks. This is the show where I interview successful e commerce entrepreneurs, business executives, and thought leaders, and ask them questions about their business stories and also dive deep into some of the strategies and tactics that they have used to start and grow their businesses. And today, I'm really excited to welcome Alex Stanford to the show. Alex is the founder of St. Belford. St. Belford specializes in creating lifestyle planners and journals designed to help individuals prioritize self care, build healthier habits, and achieve personal growth. And today I'm going to ask Alex a few questions about her entrepreneurial journey and some of the strategies and tactics that she has used to grow her business. Now, before we dive into this interview, if you enjoy this content, please make sure to hit the like and subscribe button. And for more interviews like this, please visit triptalks.com. And with that, Alex, welcome and thank you so much for joining me today at Trip Talks. Really, really appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me, Sushan. I feel honored to be invited to chat with you. So thanks for the invitation.
Yes, very, very interesting business. In such a digital age, you would think that people would be using like all the digital stuff, apps and planners. But I guess there's still a demand for the regular pen and paper planning and writing down. I guess there's a market out there. So I'm very curious to know your story. Um, when did you start this business? What kind of motivated you, and how do you get the idea, or how did you decide to start a planner business?
Yeah, absolutely. So our story goes back to 2017. It was the beginning of 2017. I had experienced a pretty gnarly case of burnout, and I was just sick and tired of this relentless cycle that I had gotten myself into. And so I knew, something had to change. I had to make some changes to my lifestyle, to my habits. So I did a couple of things. The first thing I did, which is so cliche, but pivotal part of the journey, was I started meditating. And the second thing I did was search for a wellness planner. I wanted something that would help me slow down, that would help me prioritize my well-being over productivity, because the productivity side of things I didn't have an issue with, but it was, slowing down that I really struggled to do. So I wanted something that would keep me accountable to those intentions. And what I found was mostly just generic to-do lists, planners that celebrated that hustle mentality, which was what I was trying to move away from. So that was when my husband, who was also the co-founder of St. Belford, Tom, he floated the idea of creating the planner that I desperately needed, and one that we knew many others also desperately needed, something that blended self-care, habits, gratitude, and goals all in the one place without the need for multiple notebooks and journals and apps and sticky notes. And so that's what led to the birth of St. Belford.
So that is so interesting. Now I'm curious to know what is the difference between a planner that is more driven towards productivity versus a planner that is more prioritizing your well-being. What's the big difference?
Yeah, so I just want to make it clear, I'm not anti-productivity, of course, that, we need to focus on productivity, but we can't view it in isolation. We need to also prioritize our well-being. Otherwise, we are just going to find ourselves in that pattern of exceeding our limits and burning out. So what our planner does is it does blend all those components together. It has the standard functions of your planner for planning and obviously for being as productive as possible, but it's not at the expense of your well-being. So there are features in place to ensure that you are prioritizing your well-being, such as our daily self-care planner that is strategically positioned above your to-do list to encourage you to think about what can you do for yourself today? What does your mind and body need? It's a little prompt to stop you from just going straight to the to-do list. It's a little nudge. Hey, you need to look after yourself. What can you do for yourself today? And there's several other features such as our habit tracker that is also, to keep those intentions, whether it's, getting your 10,000 steps, whether it's making sure that you're drinking your 8 glasses of water, making sure those intentions stay top of mind on your weekly spread or your daily spread. We've got a few planner options now. So yeah, it's making sure that those wellness intentions stay top of mind. and you're not just consumed by your daily to-do list.
So it seems like it's more about bringing balance top of mind, because I think when somebody is very driven or very geared towards achieving goals, their day is completely taken away by that. So if unless they are being intentional about having some time dedicated towards wellness or thinking about it, that area of the life is kind of ignored. Um,
Absolutely, yes. So easy to neglect those areas if there aren't any cues in place or prompts in place to pull you out of that go, go, go mindset.
so it's interesting. So you had this idea and you were trying to find a solution for yourself. Did you do any research? I mean, going from that idea to thinking that this could be actually a business, how did that transition occur? Like, did you go out, do some research? Did you try to talk to some other people to see if they're having similar issues? Are there specific kinds of people that need this?
So I come from an agency background. I used to work at a digital marketing agency, so I could see it all around me. So this, when I came up with this idea, or actually when Tom came up with this idea, we were in our mid-20s. So we were very exposed to, friends and family who were going through this pattern of burnout. And so my experience was not in isolation. It wasn't just it was a common story. It was a common theme that we could see in our friends and family. So to answer your question, no, we didn't engage in as much research as I guess some might. We were just so passionate about creating a product that we couldn't see available yet that we kind of just took the leap. And, there was a lot of naive optimism driving this project. We were in our mid-20s, we didn't have a mortgage, we didn't have kids yet, we didn't really, and also we both hated our jobs at the time. So we didn't really have anything telling us not to do it. We were just finally excited to do something that we felt passionate about.
I mean that brings me to my next question, like the market, because when I think about planner, like I don't think there's any shortage of planners out there, right? You go to Amazon, there's like 1,000 varieties of planners, all colors, shapes. There's like stickers in there, all sorts of things. I can go to like my local dollar store and there's like planners there. So how, I mean, is there still a market? And especially, also that now it's not just the pen and paper that's competing. Now you have the apps, like, all the electronic planner. So how do you, is there a market out there for this? And how do you kind of find the people that you want to sell to?
Yeah, I mean, of course, there are, a number of planners out there. It is a very, there are, several brands that people can choose from. But I guess what we're offering is a blended product, and there aren't that many out there. We were very much first to market an all-in-one planner, something that combined elements that you would traditionally find in separate journals. So
Hmm.
we brought in an all-in-one offering, and that was one of the largest appeals to customers because they weren't just buying a planner, they were also buying goal-setting worksheets within the planner, habit tracking components within the planner, self-care, mindfulness components within the planner, gratitude reflection within the planner, when typically you would have to get a gratitude journal, a goal-setting journal, a habit tracking journal. And so I think that has been one of the biggest appeals. One of the most common pieces of feedback we get from customers is, I used to use multiple notebooks to track this and that and that, and now I just use curation. I've got everything in one place, and that allows me to do all the things that I want to do, but in a more seamless manner. So yes, definitely a market out there. I mean, we started in 2017, now we're in 2025, about to launch, not about to, in August we'll be launching our 9th collection. Is that right? 2018, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26. Yeah, we'll be releasing our 2026 collection, which is our 9th collection. And every year we're growing. So there's definitely an audience out there that, despite the the apps that are out there and the digital offerings, there is still a need to come back to that pen and paper, because the benefits of putting pen to paper just can't be replicated in the form of an app. Like, I think, apps definitely serve a great purpose, but the mindfulness components that come from writing, I mean, think about it, right? Like, think about how quickly you can type a text or type on a computer versus handwriting something. Your brain is immediately forced to slow down. If you're constantly typing and texting, you're forcing your brain to operate at a speed that, from an evolutionary point of view, we're not designed to operate at that speed all the time. So it's our customers love coming back to that, to being forced to sort of slow down and take a more mindful approach to their planning.
Yeah, I do agree. I think, in an app kind of a situation, it's easy to like, I think it's more of the in-moment thing. So you get an idea and, it's you can basically have that as a reminder. But if you are doing something more intentional, I think the format of writing down works very well. Talking about your collection, what's included in your collection? Like, what are the items that you release every year? I'm assuming that you kind of built your collection over time.
Yes, so we started with one planner, now one dated planner. Now we have 4 dated planner options along with 2 undated planner options. This year we'll be launching another undated planner option. So that's 7 planner options in total, plus accessories to go with those planners. And we also have a mindfulness journal as well to complement the planner offering. We've dabbled with a lot of other, tested other products in the past, but we always just come back to the planners and the journals because that is what we're known for. That's what our customers trust us for. What else? We are launching a few more offerings this year. We're bringing out, again, more accessories such as a pen. What else? Yeah, just a few more accessories like cases for the planners. And again, our planners are very focused on that self-care, habits, gratitude, and goals. That is the core theme of our planner collection. That is sort of what drives and motivates each product that we create.
Now, every year when you are releasing or you're about to release your collection, I'm assuming there's like a process. So you get ready for it. I mean, there's some design. I'm assuming there's some design process. Do you work with designers to design them? Can you talk a bit about that part and also about the printing and the materials? Do you get them printed like in a China kind of setting, or like can you talk a little bit about the whole design and creation process?
Yeah, sure. So the design process always kicks off with an annual survey that we send out to our customers around, when do we send it out? Around February, we'll send out an annual survey, and that will basically question customers on, the features they're loving, the features they're not loving very much, what changes they would like to see. It's we've got some questions, but there's also open-ended questions for customers to provide as much feedback as they like. And that always gets a good response. People love contributing their ideas, which makes our job so much easier because then we actually have data to support our choices in the design, right? So that is always such a helpful tool, and that informs the brief that I create for our designers. Of course, we won't, every single idea that we get from customers, they'll often contradict each other. So we then have to sort of discuss and debate between Tom and I, what ideas do we go ahead with? We use Instagram polls as well if we're still unsure about an idea to get a larger pool of customers contributing, responding to certain ideas. And then once we have a brief, we work with our designer who we've worked with from the very beginning. She's an old friend who we used to work together at this marketing agency in Melbourne, and we just work really well together. She understands the concepts that I want to bring to life, so it's been really great to have someone who's sort of been with us for the entire journey. And once the designs are complete, then it is our least favorite part is the proofing stage. So proofing all the dates, making sure that they are correct, because believe it or not, that's something that still needs to be done manually, despite all the AI platforms that exist. They still can't catch all the errors that may pop up. So that's something that we have to sort of set aside a few weeks for, given that we have, four data planner options now. And then it's sending our files to print. So we do print in China. It's at a factory that we've been with since 2019. We've visited the factory twice, so we have an incredible relationship with the team over there. And then it's just sitting and waiting. So there is, while we sit and wait, that's when we sort of like can think about our launch and and what we're doing between, so it's preparing for launch, really, the marketing side of things.
Now, when you launched initially, I believe you mentioned that you kind of jumped into it because you were very excited about the idea and you didn't really do a lot of market research. So I'm curious, like when you launched your first version or the first year of the product, did you get immediate response, or what was that like getting your first customers and really educating the market? As I said, it's very kind of an oversaturated market, and even though your planner is a bit differentiated, how did you go and share your value proposition in the market to get people to buy? And was it
Yeah.
like a big, did you get immediate traction, or like how did that work?
Looking back, we were just such amateurs in this space. We were so focused on the product, creating the product and learning about the manufacturing side of things, because obviously that was just such a foreign space for us that we kind of neglected the launch. It was just, we didn't follow any playbooks or guides or anything. So our launch was the most underwhelming launch of all time. I guess, it was more of a soft launch than anything else. It was our friends and family supporting us in the very beginning, and them resharing our posts with their friends and family to sort of expand our reach. Of course, we ran Facebook and Google ads, so I guess that's how we acquired our first initial customers. I also remember we sent out a lot of freebies to influencers. Sharing products and stories at that time was new, and it was something that allowed us to also again expand our reach. What else did we do? Facebook groups. We would, we were a startup, so we had a very small budget to work with, and that's why we were sort of trying to leverage our networks and do as much cost-effective marketing as we could. So we found Facebook groups were pretty good for that. I was part of a few, I still am, a few female business-related business groups, and whenever someone was asking for planner recommendations, which they often do towards the end of the year, then I would pitch our product in the comments, and that would get a bit of traction. So, it wasn't huge traction, but at the time, it was something. And it was, year one was just a lot of testing, a lot of building awareness for the brand, a lot of trial and error. There was no real strategy behind it. We were just finding our feet and seeing what worked and what didn't. So I guess in acquiring our first customers that were outside of our circle, I would say Facebook ads, Google ads, and SEO. So I was initially working at a digital marketing agency that specialized in SEO. So I had that skill set up my sleeve. So it was about, making sure that we were visible on page one. Even though we were brand new to the industry, we were able to be on page one right there, smack bang, when you search for 2018 planner. Or no, it was 2018 diary that we were ranking for. So that was how we acquired our first customers.
I mean, that's a pretty big achievement. Like if you can be on page one of Google, That I think that's huge. So congratulations on that.
Thank
Um,
you.
I'm assuming that this product or this category has a lot of seasonality. Like, do you see most of your sales come at the end of the year, beginning of year, and then it kind of flattens? Or can you talk a little bit about your seasonality?
Yeah, absolutely. So we are 100% a seasonal business. So, sorry, excuse me. We, even though we have products that are for sale outside of our what we call our peak season, we still consider ourselves a seasonal business because the bulk of our revenue comes between August when we launch up until January when we sell out. So, we've got what August, September, October, November, December, Jan, a 6-month window. When we set our revenue goals, we're not really considering the 12-month period. We're setting our revenue goal for 6 months. So that's
Wow.
how much of a seasonal business we are. And yeah, it's been really interesting. Some would see it as a negative. I kind of like that, like having a little bit of downtime, especially being, we're both parents with young kids. It is nice to have a little bit of downtime and to really like focus that time and energy during the selling season to sort of focus all our time and energy on that period, and then sort of slow things down come February, and then start planning. It's not really that we're not doing anything in that time. It's just that our time and resources is going from focusing on selling to focusing on designing.
Yeah, that makes sense. So in January, when you sell out, does it mean that you don't have any planners to sell at all, or you have like very
We
limited inventory?
So we have undated planners as well. They
Okay.
just don't sell at the same frequency or at the same level as our dated planners.
So dated planners are more in demand than undated.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah,
Wow. What is the reason for
people just don't want to have to write in their dates. It's a bit more of a commitment. It's more exciting to get a dated planner because it's sort of you're gearing up for the next year. Um, yeah, I mean, there's definitely benefits to the undated planners as well, which is why we have them as an offering. For those who don't necessarily start setting their goals in January. They don't sort of lived between the calendar year. They like the flexibility that an undated planner offers. Perhaps they don't have such a rigid schedule. Their schedules change all the time. So maybe they might not need the planner for the whole year. They only need it for a certain window of the year. So that's where the undated planner option comes in really handy. But it also comes in handy as a secondary offering to those who wanted a dated planner but missed out. Because at the
that?
end of the day, like it has all the same features as our dated planner, except it doesn't include the dates. You have to write in the dates yourself.
Okay. So your dated planner contains all 365 days, or do people have to like buy a couple of
Our
uh,
undated planners,
no, no, dated. Does it start from January 1st and goes until December 31st?
that's correct. Yes.
Okay. Okay, that makes sense. So, I
Yeah.
mean, is it like pretty thick then? It's like 365 pages.
So we have a few different planner options. We have the weekly option, which is a weekly spread. So there's 52 weekly spreads.
Okay.
That our original option has 288 pages. Our daily option, which is a day to a page option, has 500 pages.
Wow. Okay.
Because it's including not just your standard daily function, it's also including other features that, how we discussed, other features that you would typically find in other journals and other that you would have to sort of track in external notebooks. It's all in one. So yes, it is quite hefty, but that is what our customers, that was probably one of our, so the daily we only added last year, and that has just been an absolute hit despite how heavy and how thick it is. It
Hmm.
has been received incredibly well.
Yeah, are your customers, um, what have you learned about your customers? I mean, when I think about wellness, are women more tend more to prioritize wellness? Like, are more of your customers female than male, or is it pretty balanced?
Well, in terms of our customer base, 99% I would say are female for sure. We definitely,
Wow. Okay.
yeah. I think it's more in terms of the style. Our planners, they are, bright, bold colors. We do have some more subtle colors as well. We obviously have a black option, but the way that we market, it is certainly geared towards women. We do have some male customers. They tend to be partners of our female customers.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. That the women who purchase our planners as well, they do fall into quite a large age bracket. That's probably been one of the most interesting things that we've learned. Often you try to figure out, okay, who's your target market, and it's often like a smaller age bracket. But what we've found is we've got women in their 20s, we've got women in their, we've got mums in their 30s, 40s, 50s. I think that was the most surprising, having such a lot, like considering the planner was made for me. I'm 33 now, but when we first created it, we had the customer we had in mind was a 25-year-old, but now our customer base has evolved, and we do have quite a large number of older customers. So we've always had to adapt our marketing accordingly because of that.
That is so interesting. It's like 99% of your audience is female. That makes me think, like, do men like don't like planning in general, or they're like it's just the style that is different for men. Like men, they want a different style, or they don't want color. It's such an interesting thought.
It is interesting. I think there are other brands out there that are, again, a bit more masculine, and so I guess guys would tend to that would appeal more to the male audience. So it's not to say that males don't prioritize their well-being or have any interest in wellness. I think it does come down to more the style of the planner.
Okay. In terms of your sales channels, I know that you have a website. I think I also saw you have like different versions of your website. Like you have the Australian version, you have the US version.
Yes.
Um, are you selling primarily on your website? Do you also sell like through marketplaces and other places as well?
We are exclusively direct to consumer. We have definitely dabbled in the wholesale space, but it just hasn't proved profitable or worth our time. We've given it a good crack, and yeah, it just hasn't really generated the desired result. So we've really honed in on direct to consumer.
Wow, very interesting. I mean, that has to say something about your marketing. Like if you are completely reliant on direct to consumer, that really says something about your marketing to be able to drive people to your website and have them buy it. Um, what is working best in terms of your marketing now? I know you said that your SEO is great. Is that still kind of your primary driver? Are you still doing advertisements?
We are still, so when we started, it was a lot of trial and error. We really were trying to figure out what worked and what didn't. And now we have the data to sort of support those decisions and choices in terms of budget allocation. So where our focus lies now is Meta ads, Google ads, SEO, and email marketing. That is what works for us. And when I say, when I say we used to engage in a lot of trial and error, and now we're sort of honing in on these core channels. That's not to say that we're not still testing, but the testing is more to do with the ad concepts and product testing rather than the channels through which we're selling, through which we're marketing. So we've seen a huge shift towards UGC content. There's a greater demand. Customers want to see how other customers are using this product that they want. They want proof that it actually does what we say it does. And
Hmm.
so, that has changed the way in which we showcase our planners. We can't just lean on polished ads anymore like we used to be able to. We now need to sort of source content from our customers to showcase how our planner is being utilized. And we're proud to say as well that, you know, every piece of UGC that you see on our page is authentically generated. It's generated by customers who actually use our planner, and we work with them to create content that, you know, kind of highlights what we want to showcase. But at the end of the day, they're telling an authentic story about how they use their planner and how it has helped them.
Hmm. So let me ask you this question. So you've been selling your planners for 9 years, and of course you've learned about the market, the marketing, your audience. If you were to start your business today from scratch, like, you know, but you have all the knowledge that you have now, how would you launch it? Like, what would you do today to really get the planner off the shelf?
You know, it's funny. I have thought about this before, and I'm almost glad that we didn't have all the knowledge that we have now, because naive optimism was such a strength for launching something that wasn't perfect. I feel like if I was launching a brand new business today, I think I would be constantly second guessing. You know, with all
Hmm.
this knowledge that I have, it almost would, I think I would overthink more than anything. But
Okay.
if I wasn't overthinking, I would
Hmm.
definitely establish a following first. So, you know, when we first started, I think I started our Instagram account like 2 weeks before our launch day. You know, we
Hmm.
launched to nobody. Like, we launched our friends and family, but essentially we launched we didn't have a base, a
Hmm.
foundation to launch to. So I would establish a following on Instagram, but utilize that to build an email list, because ultimately that is something that you own. So, you know, whether that's by creating some valuable content that people will subscribe to you to get for free. So that's what I would do. I would focus on building a community first, getting them to trust you, proving that you can provide them with valuable content, something that, you know, it aligns with whatever product that you're launching, and go from there.
Awesome. So I see on your website so I'm in Canada. So I was just thinking, if I were to buy this product, like how would I go about buying it? And I think there is an option here, and it says ships from Southern California in 1 to 2 business days. Um, so, I mean, it seems like you've set up processes or you're working with third-party logistics, and they would ship it out.
That's correct. So in 2023, we expanded into the US by securing a 3PL in Southern California. And that has been a huge game changer for us, because previously we still had a growing American customer base and Canadian customer base as well, but we were shipping from Australia, which, you know, obviously there's a lot of barriers in place there. Given the shipping time, it just wasn't such a great experience. And that's what encouraged us to sort of expand into the US.
Is US your biggest market now? I mean, I would assume, given that it's such a bigger population compared to Canada and Australia. And do you ever think about kind of moving in US and really establishing the business here?
No, that has never come up in conversation. I can't see us ever moving, not with 2 kids now. We've planted some roots here where we are, so I can't see ourselves uprooting. Um, but to answer your question, our biggest market is still in Australia. We're still sort of, you
Hmm.
know, we're babies in America. Yes, it's a larger market, but it also is met with more competition, right?
Hmm.
So we are still, you know, it's 2025 now. So yeah, this will be when do we, so our, we entered the US in 2023 for our 2024 collection. And then, so we've done 2 seasons in the US now, and this will be our 3rd season. So yeah, still growing in the US every year, but our largest market is still in Australia.
Okay, makes sense. In terms of your team, is it just you? I believe, I believe you said it's you, your husband, you work with a designer, and then you have outsourced your logistics and I guess manufacturing is in China. Is there anybody else that you work with?
Who do we work with? Just as you said, yeah, so it's just Tom and I in-house, and we outsource the design to, yeah, we actually have a couple of freelance designers, and then anything else that sort of falls outside of our skill set gets outsourced. So, accounting, that sort of, all those sort of things. And then, as you said, we've got 2 warehouses, one in Southern California at the moment. We're actually moving warehouses at the moment, and then another warehouse in Melbourne.
Okay, awesome. Um, in terms of the business of this product, I'm assuming that, because this is a paper product and you're basically selling your design, um, does it make a good product to sell, like in terms of profit margins and things like this? Because, and the reason I'm asking this is because a lot of the times when you talk to product-based e-commerce businesses, there's so much goes into just the product itself that sometimes the margins are not as great. So do you find that your product has like a good, sufficient uh, margins?
Absolutely, yes. Yes, very healthy profit margin, and that is because we have positioned ourselves in the more premium market. We're not trying to sell a cheap planner here. Our planners are positioned as a premium planner. In the US, it's a $50 planner, so we're not trying to be the cheapest planner by any means, which means it allows us to achieve healthy profit margins.
Okay. In terms of your future outlook for your business, future vision, 5, 10 years down the road, do you want to, of course, you have a rhythm, so you have to release your annual planners and you're continuing to build your product base. I mean, I'm also very curious to know, like, do you see a lot of repeat customers? So people who bought like your previous year, they'll come back and purchase again?
Yeah, so our returning customer rate sits around 35 to 40%.
Okay.
So, of course, there's always going to be a bit of churn because, well, everyone loves trying new planners, but we also get so many customers that come back they may skip a year, but then come back the following year because they regretted their decision
Hmm.
to move elsewhere. So that's always been nice and reassuring. To answer your other question in terms of vision for the future, yeah, I mean, to be honest, I don't have a grand vision for the future. At this stage, we are planning year to year, and we're parents with young kids. That's our priority at this stage. We we'll set annual goals, but we don't really think beyond that because we just we're setting goals that align with whatever season of life we're in. So for example, when I gave birth to my second, I sort of pared it back in terms of product expansion, right? But now that my youngest is nearly 2, I sort of have a bit more time, energy, resources to focus on product extensions.
Awesome. In every entrepreneur's journey, there's always failures, mistakes made, lessons learned. What is a big mistake that comes to your mind? Of course, you've been doing this for some time. What did you learn from your mistake? What can other entrepreneurs learn from your failures or mistakes?
The biggest one that comes to mind is not getting third-party inspections in our first year. So
For the
are you
product?
for the product? Yes. So
Yes, yes.
there are third-party quality control inspections that you can get to ensure that obviously you're not on the ground to check the products yourself, right? So you can outsource that to a team that will come in and make sure that the product meets the criteria that you've established with your supplier. But we didn't know that in our first year, in our first couple of years, actually. So, I mean, it's hard to call it a mistake, right? Because we just didn't have that knowledge, but it was definitely a learning curve that we needed to go through in order to understand what could go wrong with planner production. I mean, when we started, we were just so naive. We didn't know that anything could go wrong in producing planners. It was so naive. So we had to go through those first couple of years to learn, okay, you can get scratches on the covers, you can have ripped pages, you can have pages in the incorrect order, believe it or not. You can have, ribbons that are frayed, that aren't cut properly. So with that knowledge, now we can establish clear criteria for our suppliers and establish acceptable defect rates, because of course, striving for 100% perfect products is just not realistic. And I guess that would be my biggest learn from year one, and that would be what I would tell budding entrepreneurs, people who want to manufacture products. Don't think that you can produce a 100% perfect production, because it's just not possible in mass production. So you've got to understand what could go wrong with your product and establish agreements with your suppliers to ensure that you're both on the same page. That, okay, if say you agree on a 2% defect rate, if it exceeds the 2% defect rate, then what does the compensation look like? Are they going to remake those products for you? So it's really about having those conversations instead of subscribing to unrealistic expectations.
Yeah, I mean that's so important, right? Like I can imagine in a product like this, I mean, there's so many things that can go wrong. Like the ink can, be not right, or it's not dark enough, like on the page, the print. I mean, so yeah, so many things can go wrong. So yeah, definitely. But it seems like your manufacturer is doing a good job, so you're with them, right, for a long
Yes,
time.
yes, yes.
Did you find them through Alibaba, or how
I
did you find
did,
them?
yes. So we went through two manufacturers before we've landed on our current factory. Our very first printer, we actually went to we used a local printer, but they outsourced our job to Taiwan. But the benefit of doing that was they managed, all the freight and all that side of things that we were just completely clueless about. So, there was enough for us to learn, and we were happy to sort of take, obviously you're paying a lot more when you're going through a third party, but they sort of carried a lot of the risk for us. So that was our first printer. Unfortunately, the goods that were delivered, there wasn't specific criteria that was communicated across, because we didn't know what criteria to put in place. And so we did have a lot of defective products in our first year. In our second year, we went direct to China. We found a supplier on Alibaba, got a sample and everything checked out. Unfortunately, despite listing the criteria, despite having that criteria in place, we were still disappointed with their production. There were a lot of issues at play. We had like pages in the incorrect order. It was just an absolute nightmare. Year two, I probably thought that was it. I was like, oh, okay, time to get a full-time job again.
Hmm. I mean,
But
that could be very disheartening, right?
that was, yeah, it was really, a lot of sleep was lost that season. But
Did
we
you
made it.
did they refund the money at all or no?
We had to fight really hard. So the benefit of going through Alibaba is there is like a body in place to assist with these issues.
Okay.
But obviously, due to the language barrier, it is very difficult, because the supplier that we were working with at the time, they weren't accepting responsibility for the issues
Hmm.
at play. And so, yeah, it just made it really difficult to get a refund, but we eventually did. It was just a very stressful experience.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, for sure. Um, Now I'm going to move on to our rapid fire segment. In this segment, I'm going to ask you a few quick questions, and you have to answer them maybe in a word or a sentence or so. So the
Okay.
first one is one book recommendation for entrepreneurs and why?
The Slight Edge by Jeff Olson. I just love
Okay.
the philosophy. Are you familiar with this one?
No.
No. So it's all about, he highlights the importance of the compound effect of our small, simple actions that we take. Often, we put a lot of I'm trying to keep it short. Okay, so yeah, highlighting the compound effect of our small, simple actions over time and how that can influence the trajectory of our life. So to kind of not just look at the big audacious moves that you make, but to consider the things that you're doing consistently on a daily basis. That's, yeah.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yes. Um, an innovative product or idea in the current e-commerce, retail, or tech landscape that you feel excited about,
An innovative product.
or idea,
Mm.
or it could be just a product or idea. It doesn't.
Yeah, there's a brand
Anything.
that Yeah, there's an Australian brand that comes to mind. They've sort of started engineering their own fabrics that are just insanely comfortable, but also sustainable. So that's been something that's been catching my attention.
Okay. Do you know? Do you remember the name or no?
Yes, it's called Pear, Paire
Here. Okay. Nice.
brand. Yeah.
A business or productivity tool or software that you would recommend, or a productivity tip.
A productivity tip, write your to-do list the night before. It just reduces decision fatigue, allows you to start your day with a lot more focus and intention instead of trying to figure out, where do I even begin?
Awesome. Uh, Another startup or business that you think is currently doing great things. I know you mentioned that one, but any other business that comes to mind?
The business that comes to mind.
Any products that you use that you're like passionate about?
Yeah, I'm kind of blanking. I'm looking around. Mm, yeah, I'm kind of blanking on that one. Sorry.
No worries, no worries. Let me go to the next one then.
Okay.
A peer entrepreneur or business person whom you look up to, or someone who inspires you.
I've got a good friend who is currently building an app called Your Little Hero. And it's an app for parents and kids. It is an app that creates customized stories that positions the child as the hero of the story. And it's all about helping them conquer everyday challenges. So the stories are customized uh, to to sort of help that child overcome whatever challenge they're experiencing, whether it's them being afraid of the dark or sharing their toys. And yeah, it's just really cool to, often you only see the end product, right? You don't really see the beginning of it or hear about the idea initially. So it's been really nice to sit by the sidelines and sort of watch this come to life.
Awesome. Final question. Best business advice that you have ever received or you would give to other entrepreneurs?
Yes. um, Tim Ferriss often talks about fear setting, and which is basically, defining the worst case scenario that could result from whatever goal that you're pursuing, and then problem solving your way through it and coming up with sort of contingency plans. So asking yourself, what can you do to prevent the worst from occurring? And then what can you do to overcome those set of circumstances if they do eventuate? And I just feel like it's such a powerful exercise because it helps you it helps get you out of your head. It helps you approach those fears from with a more logical mindset. And it transforms that fear into something that you can actually manage and overcome. So I find that exercise really powerful, and it's something that we actually did before we decided to go ahead with St. Belford.
Awesome. Well, Alex, those were all the questions that I had. Thank you so much for sharing your story, for your successes, lessons learned. If anybody wants to try out your products or buy your planners, what's the best way to do that?
Yep, so if you're in the US, stbelford.com. Everyone else, head to stbelford.com.au.
Well, Alex, thank you so much again for joining me and sharing your story, and wish you all the very best. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sushant.